And I'm now pleased to introduce to the stage Syed Gilani, Chief Executive Officer of Safr.
Hello everyone, how are you? Good. Everybody's tired. I mean, it's 4 p.m. I guess. So my name is Syed Gilani and I am the CEO of Safr. The story starts with the rideshare market. When the market of the rideshare was introduced a few years back, we thought it has a promise for all people to be able to earn equally whenever they feel like without the fear of safety. But women like Morgan and women like Deborah, right over here, they are real drivers, and many women like them, they didn't feel safe driving for other rideshare companies. And not just simply drivers, but riders also didn't feel safe that they could ride any time of the day with other rideshare companies, and that was the birth of Safr. The idea of Safr was originated based on the premise that all people, regardless of the gender and the background, should be able to earn equally as part of the gig economy. But if you look at the statistic, almost 14% of Uber and Lyft drivers are women, and they only drive during daylight hours. So after that, I guess I need to do this. There you go. So only 14% was their driver was rideshare drivers were women, and they were driving during daylight hours, and at evening they weren't driving. So when you look at the overall global market on the economy side, not only women are making less, 24% less than men, but also according to World Bank, they're spending 38% more on their transportation needs than men. And that's why you see the 58% of the world population, which is women, they're kept in a way that only they own just a fraction of the global wealth. So we saw the problem. We saw that we needed to provide an equal opportunity to women all over the world, not just even in the Asia or Middle East or the countries that we think that there's a problem. So we came up with the idea of Safr. The solution was to create a platform through which women drivers are free to drive any time of the day and any day of the week without the fear of safety. So they can earn equal money as men. And you can see that, if you look at this data and statistic on the rideshare economy side, most drivers are men and they drive 14, 15, 16 hours, they drive overnight, so they end up in earning more money than women. And the women drivers, since they have other responsibilities as well and they drive during a certain time period, that's where the big challenge comes in. So our solution was that how can we bring more drivers on board? Since our introduction of Safr, more than close to 10,000 drivers are registered with us, and 98% of them are women. That is a huge percentage as compared to 14 to 20% of other rideshare companies' drivers that are women. And that was the birth of Safr. The idea was, we looked at the market and we saw that the overall transportation market is growing at 16.4% annually. There are in 1,000 cities around the globe. There are rideshare companies operating, and there is a very small fragment of that population that is represented by one gender. And I'm not even going into LGBTQ community. When you go into that community as well, you have even more less representation of that community in the rideshare economy. So since our launch in 1.5 years ago, we had around 100,000 downloads on our app. We had close to 10,000 drivers. And the most important statistic of our driver pool is 50% of those drivers never drove for other rideshare companies. So we're bringing new group of people to our platform to Safr. So when we looked at the opportunity, we saw that 45% on-demand economy consumers are women. And 1/3 of the regular rideshare ride users, they don't own the cars. And more women are going into the workforce. 74%, 74 million women are in the workforce. These are US statistics, and I'm sure the European statistics would be representative of the same percentage. We also saw that more women have driver licenses than men. But why they are kept aside in the gig economy and they're not given equal representation? And that's where the huge opportunity was in front of us, and the birth of Safr was in place. We're not man haters. Many people would say that, okay, some women-focused rideshare, so probably it's really men are not included. But we are intelligent, fun, strong, and outspoken brand. We believe in women empowerment, and that's what we focus on. And however we encourage every gender to join us in our quest of empowering women all over the world. The transformation of neighborhoods into sisterhood, that was the biggest challenge for us, for the reason that many people didn't believe in a rideshare to be able to provide equal opportunity to any gender because of the background of Uber and other bigger guys that are in the market. But we had to work hard at that time, and slowly and steadily through networks and through referrals of women, we were able to gain a significant market share. And right now, we are operating in the US and in Pakistan, but as we speak, we are opening up in 3 other cities across the US in addition to Boston. And very soon we will be in Europe as well. We're looking into the expansion in this part of the world as well. Many people have reached out specifically from London area who wanted us to come to London and other European cities, and we look forward to be part of this whole ecosystem over here. I would like to, at this time, my presentation is divided in 2 parts. I'm speaking overall at the Safr side, but we have a CEO, Syed Ramla Hassan, who is from Pakistan, and she's managing our operation in Pakistan. She can talk about the challenges that women folk face in Pakistan. So I would like to invite Ramla to talk more about Safr in Pakistan.
Hi everyone. I'll talk about the role of women in the rideshare industry in Asia and what we're doing to increase their participation at Safr. So Asia, as you all know, is the largest continent with the highest population, 48 countries, and you just look at anything, you pick up your phone, it's made in China, you look for the world's tallest building, it's in the UAE, you look for the world's largest railway line, it's in Russia. So with so many advancements and so many advancements in technology and agriculture and so many other areas, it's progressing in many ways, but it's unfortunate that with nearly half of its population being women, Asia, 6 of the world's 10 most dangerous countries for women identified by the Reuters Foundation are in Asia. These include, so apart from those 6, the other 4 are the United States and 3 African countries. But in Asia, the most dangerous countries include India, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Syria, Pakistan, and these countries have been identified by the Reuters Foundation as being the worst in terms of healthcare for women, in terms of access to economic opportunities, sexual and non-sexual violence, and human trafficking. If you look at the transportation industry in Asia, especially if you look at the developing countries like Pakistan, the ownership rates are very low, the car ownership rates. So in Pakistan, in India and other developing countries, the car, for every 1,000 people, only 5 of them are car owners. And although half of the population is female, most cars are owned by men. So women have to rely on male family members to travel from one place to another, and they can't always do that. So the use of public transport is very, very high. We've had traditional means since a few years, such as buses, vans, rickshaws, trains. But as the rideshare, as this automobile industry and the transportation industry has been changing over the years, the ride-sharing industry has also skyrocketed in Asia. In 2017 alone, we've had around 6 billion trips worldwide, out of which over 70% were completed in Asia. So the demand for ride-sharing is really, really high in this region, but it is unfortunate that most of the ride shares that are currently operating, including big names like Uber, Grab, Gojek, most of the ride shares have failed to address the safety concern of women in public transport. So what happens is that when women do not have access to safe public transport, their movement is restricted. So if you look at Pakistan, for instance, when there are over 40% of secondary school students are female, but when you look at the labor force participation of women, women make up barely 22% of the total labor force. And the Asian Development Bank has identified that this is primarily because of lack of access to safe public transport. So when they do not have safe public transport, it's not just their lives that are affected, it's also the whole country that is affected by lack of safe transport. In Pakistan, there have been some surveys conducted by the government, by the UN Women, and by other non-government organizations. And in the largest city, that is Karachi, which is a major urban center, it was found that 77% of the women who used public transport every day said that they had been sexually harassed multiple times. So these issues are not just in the traditional means of public transport, but they're also in ride-sharing services. So staring, touching, taking women to a different deserted place, not their actual destination, taking them on longer routes. These are very common issues even in the ride-sharing industry. So lots of women do not also complain about them because there is this fear of being targeted again, and they also avoid escalating an already unpleasant situation. So this is why, because of all of these safety concerns, women tend not to use public transport every time that they need it, and they tend not to use ride shares either, because it has a direct correlation with the likelihood of being harassed. And this reduces their participation in the public sphere, and it also affects the GDP of the country, not just the woman's own life. In 2012, I believe, the International Labour Organization estimated that an additional $6 trillion could be of GDP could be generated globally if we provided women equal opportunities, and if that reduced the employment to population gap. So at Safr, our strategy is to empower women through safe transportation, job creation, and financial security. We want them to be able to move freely. We want them to be able to work or study whenever and wherever they want. We want them to have as much freedom of movement as men do, and for this we have started with ride sharing. But ride sharing is just the beginning. We aim to empower women in every which way. So whether it's about commuting to work, or picking up kids from school, or getting something delivered, or any of a woman's needs, Safr is poised to become an extension of her lifestyle. So we aim to empower women and improve gender balance, offer choice, and increase participation of women in the economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Real great presentation, and great to get that very different perspective from perhaps standing here in London, and very, I suppose, European perspective that we've had on the presentations today. We've got around 5 or so minutes for questions, and I'm sure that in the audience we're going to have a good number. So who would like to ask the first question? There's a gentleman right at the very back whose hand I've seen first. Thank you.
Hello, can I just ask, is there any issues with discrimination legislation in any of the jurisdictions that you've operated in?
That's a very good question. So when we started off, that was the first concern we had, that are we discriminating against men or any other gender? We do not discriminate based on gender, background, and so on and so forth. However, we focus on women empowerment through safe transportation. So when I say that, we have men who join us as both riders and drivers. Since our model is focused on women empowerment, we make sure that we vet through every single prospect that comes on board, and the overall branding and overall messaging of our platform, since it's geared towards women, almost 95% of the applications that we receive as drivers are from women. So yes, we have other genders as well, those who join us, but we focus very heavily on the women empowerment side.
Hi, thank you for that interesting presentation. But how do you want to avoid that a male person takes your service or pays for the service and he's gonna harass the driver?
That's a very good question. So we handle that part in three segments. Number one, on our platform, we have a feature called gender preference. So both riders and driver can create their gender preference based on who they want to pick up with and who they want to pick up. So this way, the requests only go to their preferred person. The second important feature that we have on our app is a trusted driver feature. So if you like a particular driver or group of people, that you can choose them as your trusted driver, and next time the request first would go towards your trusted driver. And number three, the most important thing that we looked into is that we make sure that the during ride experience is the best for our drivers and riders. So we have an artificial intelligence based platform called Deborah that she manages all of our rides in real time. So we make sure if there is any threat, God forbid, and there is any problem that's coming up, then she can identify and flag those rides and immediately act on behalf of the rider and the driver. And we have tools available within the app, security tools available in the app that allow both riders and drivers to click on those tools and get some help immediately.
Thank you.
Hello, do you have solutions, if we look a little bit in the future, for robo-taxis or autonomous ride sharing for women's safety?
So that's a great question. So every single person that we go to, they ask us, what is our autonomous pathway, right? So when autonomous comes in, then you can take the driver out of the equation, which the other guys say cushioning their profit, so there is no driver in the equation. So when Ramla was talking about extension of lifestyle, if we go back to that slide, this one. So we believe that once we create a trust between women driver and women rider, that is the most valuable asset that we can end up in creating. Because people don't travel for just no reason. They travel because they have a specific purpose. They want to achieve certain goals. And specifically when you talk about women, when they're traveling and they're doing some stuff, they have other things that they're handling as well, other than just simply jobs and whatever they're focusing on. So our goal is, once we have that trust created between the rider and driver, we want to be able to provide all these services where autonomous cannot get in. So where we are picking up your kids or we are taking care of the household. So here's the problem overall with the society that we looked at. Over many millennia, the society overall has pushed certain things onto women and said, okay, these are the things you must do or you have to do. And there are certain things with the women empowerment over the period of centuries is that women love to do. So what we want to, as a reliable brand for women drivers and riders, we want to be able to take care of the stuff that women are subjected to do, but they can avoid that and we can take care of that stuff so they can enjoy their life doing things that they would love to do. So if they're working hard, or if they are socializing, or if they're achieving their goals, economic, social, or whatever goals they have, we want to make sure that we can empower those goals at any level. And on the ride shares, on the autonomous side as well, yes, we do have a pathway for that as well, and we believe that Deborah on her own can create that kind of a pathway for autonomous and anything that moves, for automated delivery, drones, and all that. And that's a middle tier software that we are creating.
I think we've probably got time for one final question. If there is any final questions left in the room. Over in the corner.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm from a startup called Shift Mobility. It was a really interesting presentation. I'm just wondering if you've considered, I think it's really good that there's a high public transport use because I'm traditionally a transport planner, but I'm just quite interested in whether you can apply the AI technology that you mentioned to improving women's safety in public transport as well as ride-hailing, because, yeah, I'm just interested in that.
That's a very interesting point, and that's the goal. I mean, when I look at the safety problem and the empowerment problem, it all starts with equal opportunity for women, or any gender for that matter. So I normally jokingly say that when I sit in Uber ride or other ride sharing, nobody comments on me and says, "Hey, you're looking good." But if there is a woman sitting in the car, they get a comment or two very often. And 99% of those comments are not relayed back to those companies or anybody. Those women, many women don't even talk about those because they think that it's okay, it's normal, thank you so much. But that's really the problem. That's where it all starts. We want to make sure that everybody's treated equally. We want to make sure that every mode of transportation, no matter what the mode of transportation is. So if I'm working midnight in my office, and of course, when I talk about women as a man also, I don't believe that, I want to feel unsafe by the end of the evening as well. But we want to make sure that if we are working late or we are partying, we should not be thinking for any gender that they have to think that how they're going to get home, how they're going to get to office, and would they feel safe about it or not. So this is very important for us. And one last statistic I want to mention, that we believe that, probably you would think that 20% and 30% of a US women population actually would take safe Uber rides and Lyft rides. That's not true. According to Pew Research, only 1.5% of US women population actually take Uber and Lyft on daily basis. So the market in itself on the rideshare side of it is pretty huge and still open. So someone's told me that market is saturated. It is not, and we believe that Safr could be the answer for that particular market segment. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much, Syed and Syeda. Fascinating presentation, and thank you for the questions.